Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to go over what I think is the crown jewel of the Operation Heat event in the summer of 2019 for War Thunder. The P-59A Airacomet is what stands before us for this event. It's going to be the second tier prize for the pilots for Operation Heat, and I just want to say I'm probably going to say Airacomet a lot just because I'm used to that, so if I say that I apologize. Moving on to what the Airacomet is, it is the first jet fighter that America really ever had in service. It was a World War II jet fighter which started its development in 1941 thanks to the British. The Bell Aircraft Corporation was able to get their hands on some schematics of the Whittle turbojet engine from Great Britain. I'm sure it was obviously very much a mutual agreement between the two, and they were able to build off of these schematics, building some engines for a machine like the P-59, which eventually was assembled in 1942 and was tested until 1944. The two major versions of the P-59 are the A and the B. The A is the first serial production version. There was around about 20 of them built, and then after that you had the P-59B, where they made a decent amount more of that, totaling just less than 100 of these aircraft. Unfortunately, the aircraft itself had a few issues when it came to its performance. Mainly, you've got to remember, if you have a look at the first era of jets that we had in combat, they definitely struggled on the actual power side when it came to their speed. That's why a lot of countries actually opted to go for stuff such as Griffin Spitz at the time, or P-51Hs, because the jet evolution was just not there yet until after the war, when stuff like H.E.A.T started turning up, and later tier Meteors, and of course the German engineering for stuff like the Me-262s, and even, I suppose, stuff like the Me-163. A lot of nations had not fully grasped the idea of jet engines, which is why this machine is going to be a rank 4 instead of a rank 5, which every other nation, every other jet in game would be. The interesting thing about the Airacomet, though, is that it does have two engines strapped to it. It is not just a single engine fighter, and what this means is it should have around about the same competition or the same level of usefulness as a top tier piston engine aircraft. So we're probably going to see around the idea of 6.3 or 6.7 for this aircraft, just because of the way that this thing is sat. Also, the speed is seen as over 650 kilometers an hour, which is really not powerful for a jet of this era. You've got to remember, stuff like the Yak-17 in-game actually has a better top speed than this thing. So even the P-51H, which is set at 6.3 right now, has a more capable speed than this when it's using its war emergency power. So the main things, in my opinion, when I look at this aircraft, when I look at its general shape and the way that it's coming to War Thunder, what I'm seeing is a machine which is going to sit at 6.7, 6.3, which should be quite maneuverable. It's got a very large elevator, it's got incredibly large wings, so it should hopefully roll, elevator turn pretty well, so roll 90 and then hit the elevator and go crazy. You really got to hope for that. And then also, on top of this, it has three 50 caliber machine guns and a 37mm in the nose. So it's very similar to the armament you see from a P-38, all centrally mounted, of course, being the American way for machines like this. So if you have a look at like the P-38 low, what you'll find is it has four 50 calibers and a 20, but they're all centrally mounted in this little area. What you'll find if you have a look at the Airacomet is a similar idea, apart from they've swapped out a 20 and a 50 for a 37. So it has three 50s on one side and then a 37 on the other. I would personally rather have the 20 and then the 450s, but you can't have everything. What is nice is that even though the 37 has only 44 rounds, the 50 cals have 1,800 rounds. Now that's insane. That means that as long as the fuel on this thing is a decent amount, you'll be able to stay in the fight for an incredibly long time and burn out the enemy. One of the nice things about machines at this tier for America, stuff like the P-51H NA and the F7 F3 is, or even just the F7F in the tech tree, is they have a ton of ammunition and they have a ton of secondary armaments. The P-59A could also carry bombs and rockets, so we'll see if it does in game. I hope it does, following the trend of many of these American aircraft where they are kind of multi-role, at least in War Thunder terms. But with the F7 F3, the F7F and the P-51H, they have a ridiculous amount of ammunition as well. 1,800 rounds between 6 50 caliber guns on the P-51H. The F7 F3 has 800 20s and 1,600 50 cals with four 50 caliber machine guns. So around this tier, which I'm pretty sure the Airacomet's going to sit here. Because it makes sense, it fills a gap, even though it's going to be in the premium part of the tree. It just has an abundance of ammo, so you're going to be able to stay in the fight for a long time. You're going to be able to try and use your maneuverability well, hopefully, against some of the other aircraft. Now, the only problem I see with the P-59A is, even though it's going to be one of the lowest tier jets, it's going to be on the level of stuff like the Yak-17 and Yak-15. So this is the Yak-17, and the major limits of machines like this are the ammunition that's on board. So the 15P, it only has 60 rounds of 23, and then the Yak-17 only has 120 rounds of 23. So these are incredibly maneuverable, decently fast vehicles at 6367, but they're let down by their armaments. The P-59 is going to be the opposite. It's not going to be let down by its armaments, but it should be let down by its speed. So it'll be interesting to see how machines like this interact. But what I've found over the last few days, because I've been playing quite a lot of the ME-262, mainly the A1A, because I was spading it on stream the other day with Tazzy, just playing through it and enjoying it. What I found was, even though it was hard to get guns on target, this machine, if we compare it to the P-59, is about 200 kilometers faster than it. Now, what this means is, if you're a 262 pilot, you shouldn't get touched by a P-59. What you should be fighting is obviously F-80s and stuff like that, and because of the nature of the 6367 bracket for America, which I feel like this is going to fall into, what you end up with is just cannon fodder for a machine like this. And because of its low speed, because of its large frame, because it's not a small vehicle, especially with the two engine setup that you can see back here, the 262 should eat it alive. It really should absolutely annihilate it, and that's what I'm kind of worried about, where it may be one of these machines where at its BR of 6367, where it's actually going to sit, it should really do okay. It should do well against the high tier props. It should do well against stuff like the H.E.A.T, the Yak-15P, the Yak-17. But you know what people aren't playing? They're not playing any of them. They're either playing the 5.7s from the Germans or the 5.7s from the Japanese in the forms of stuff like the Ki 84s and the M1Ks, or they're playing the TARs and the K4s. So maybe if you get downtied into that, you'll be alright. Or a lot of them are playing ME-262s. And 262s are just going to rip you a new one. There won't be a lot you can do against these things. The only thing you'll really be able to do is maybe try and get it to overshoot, but the ME-262 is incredibly maneuverable on top of its speed. So even though I personally, from a historic point of view, are incredibly happy that this machine is coming to the game. And it also has, as you can see in all these pictures, it actually shows you both camouflages which are available for it. So you have the nice silver camouflage and the kind of green drab camouflage. I'm really happy to see it, and also because there's another variant, the P-59B, that could easily come into the game in a standard tech tree, setting. So that's wonderful. But I don't see how this gets off the ground in an incredibly positive way, just because of the dominance of the 262, and also stuff like the Polkastora, the Sternvogel, and even stuff like a Rados. So yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe it comes in at 6.0, so therefore it would mainly just go up against props, then it'll do okay, you know, it'll still get out 10 and stuff, but at least it'll be able to use the little bit of speed that it has. If it comes in at the 6-7, then it may fall prey to what we see with the P-51H, that just a lot of the times gets eaten by upgraded ME-262s. Like, I haven't even got the last stage of engine upgrades on this thing yet, and we were flying it yesterday, and it felt like props could do nothing against it. Like, I'm 82 and 60 in it, you know, mainly a lot of them are kills from ground RB, where I was basically trying to, you know, do just silly things. But yesterday, you know, there was a lot of matches where it was 1-0, you know, kills, or 2-0 kills, where it just felt like you had the control of the situation completely. So I'm kind of worried when it comes to this. We'll have to see where it finally fits in. I am incredibly pleased it's coming into the game, though. Wonderful pick for the Operation H.E.A.T event. It's going to get a lot of people excited. And as I said, it's my pick of the vehicles. Very much looking forward to it. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Martinez, Moxie, Alobralo, Super Cacti, Grisvolk, E-Love Goat, and Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.